Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome along to Circuit Ricardo Tormo here in Valencia. It was only 5 months ago that we had our super speed weekend and we crowned our 2020 NASCAR Whelen Euro Series champions for both the Elite 2 and the NASCAR Pro divisions. Well, we're back for the start of the 2021 season, and what a season we've got ahead of us. Alon Day, the reigning Euro NASCAR Pro champion, remains in the championship. Could he claim a historic 4th championship title? Could we see Fred Gabion, in what is likely to be his final season of NASCAR racing, finally become a champion? He's been a 3 times runner-up in the past. Might we see the likes of the reigning Euro NASCAR 2 champion, Vittorio Girelli, become the first driver to win it in both divisions? Well, this is the start of a long championship season. We get things underway here at Ricardo Tormo, and as ever, we will travel our way around Europe to some of the very best racing circuits to enjoy what I'm sure is going to be a stellar 2021 championship season. Let's just have a quick look at the circuit that's here at Circuit Ricardo Tormo. If you've been with us before, you'll be very familiar with its layout. It's open to the public. Only 2,000 spectators are allowed, and they are separate from the competitors, all socially distant. 14 key parts to the circuit, this 4-kilometre or 2.5 mile track, and certainly it provided some great racing last year. It's great to see the Valencia circuit. We have now had 10 visits to this circuit. Alon Day has had the most pole positions with 3. He's also had the most starts with 14, but the most wins goes the way of a Spaniard at this circuit, Ander Villarino, who is not in the entry list over the course of this weekend. So that tells you a little bit about the circuit. Let's head out there now and get Fred Gabion to show us a lap.
Welcome guys to Valencia. So we have a big straight line with almost the top speed of the NASCAR every year, and it's really important to keep a lot of speed in the first corner because it's a really fast left corner. Just after the fast left corner, you have a really strong left, an hairpin, and it's I think for me it's the slowest turn on the track, and you have to brake really hard and try to keep your brake until the apex, and after try to keep the rhythm until the turn 11. It's a lot of right and left corner, all in second gear, so trying to keep a good rhythm to be fast, and after one of the key on this track is really the chicane before the turn 11, because you have to brake on the curve, and if you brake too hard, you can kill easy your tires only in 1 lap. So it's really hard to make a good brake and keep enough speed until the apex of the turn 11. After we have a chicane, a right and left, really fast in third or second gear, maybe that depends of the feeling of the driver. And a really hard last left corner just before the straight line. This corner is really hard because all the brake is in a little left corner, and it's really hard to see the apex because you don't know if you have to look by your windows or in front of you because the chassis can block your vision. So it's really key because you have to keep a lot of speed to be fast on the straight line, and that's all for this track. Really interesting. I hope you will enjoy the race this weekend.
So there we go. There's a lap by Fred Gabion, the in 2013 for the first time, but then 2016 and 2018 as well. The cars are starting to get ready to head out into what will be the Euro NASCAR Pro qualifying session. But if you're not familiar with the format of the weekend, let's just guide you through the way the format is going to work for this opening round of the 2021 NASCAR Whelen Euro Series. There will be 30 minutes of qualifying for Euro NASCAR Pro coming up. That will be followed just 5 minutes later by the Euro NASCAR 2 qualifying. So it doesn't give the teams a great deal of time to turn the cars around, because most of the cars, not all of them, but most of them are taking part in both qualifying sessions, i.e. the car is being shared by respective drivers. Then later on over the course of today, we will have our first race of the weekend, which is the Euro NASCAR Pro race. That will be held over roughly 75 kilometres, and the Euro NASCAR 2s have a slightly shorter distance. Euro NASCAR Pro is for the professional drivers. Euro NASCAR 2 is for the young and the amateur drivers. So they have a slightly shorter race distance. Then come tomorrow morning, it won't be streamed live, but there will be a warm-up in the morning, and then we'll repeat the same process tomorrow afternoon with Euro NASCAR 2 coming first with their 60-kilometre race, and then a 75-kilometre race for the Euro NASCAR Pro. And that tells you a little bit about how that aspect works over the course of this weekend. Now, come the racing, there are 40 points for a race win, 35 for second, 34 for third, and so on. It diminishes from there. There's an extra 4 points available for anybody that gains the most places, starting position to finishing position as well. And when we get to the finals at the back end of the season, then it's double championship points in reality. So there's a raft of points available. Through the regular season, you count your best 10 of 12 races. So early start of the championship season, we'll worry about all of that when we get towards the finals, because it's usually, to be absolutely honest, the finals where the championship is decided. So that gives you an idea as to how the points are worked out as well. How are the tyres worked out? Because we have a new tyre partner for this year, which is Whelen tyres, who will limit the amount of tyres that are available, such as the way the championship regulations are written. So all of the cars will start qualifying on 4 brand new tyres. Now, it's not the car, it's the driver that gets those tyres. So when a car goes out in Euro NASCAR Pro, that driver has 4 brand new slick Whelen tyres available to them. When the car goes out in Euro NASCAR 2 qualifying, that driver, even if it's the same driver driving in both, will get another 4 tyres allocated, which must only be used in the Euro NASCAR 2 sessions. And those tyres have to see them throughout the course of this weekend. Now, that's the new tyre allocation. Because it's the first round, they can also nominate 2 used tyres for this one, and those used tyres will be the likes of the tyres that they used in yesterday's free practice session. So they get 6 tyres in total over the course of this weekend, 4 of which are brand new. But then when we go to some of the latter rounds, you can see down there in the bottom left, they only get 2 new tyres. So it's 4 tyres that have to be carried over from a previous round. So it very much limits tyres. That helps limit budgets, meaning that there's not as much tyre budget that people have to spend, and equally as much, it also means the drivers need to look after their tyres as well over the course of a weekend, because certainly when it gets to some of the hotter weather in the middle of the year, tyre drop-off is going to be significant. So tyre allocation, very much limited. We're delighted that Whelen is one of our new tyre partners for this year, along with the likes of NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, as it's been badged for a good number of years. We thank Whelen for their support, and also TJ are a fantastic partner for us, providing the championship trophy and the rings to the winners at each one of their events. We couldn't do it without them. And our new partner for this year as well, iRacing. We've done a esports series for the last couple of seasons during this strange period of time that we're all living through, and iRacing now are an official partner for the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series. So the NASCAR Pro cars nudging their way out of the garages. There is the number 42 car, which in this session will be driven by Luigi Ferreira. Fabulous looking car, the 42 racing car, badged as a shadow for this weekend. And we'll wait and see how they get on. We saw them sort of part season last year. They didn't do absolutely every single round. The drivers to watch out for this weekend, as ever, the former Euro NASCAR 2 champion, Tormo Ferrando. He is going to be one to watch out for. We've seen the onboard lap with the RDV competition car in the hands of the Frenchman, Fred Gabion. He'll be one to watch out for. Of course, we've got our returning 1997 Formula 1 world champion and former Indy 500 winner, Jacques Villeneuve, racing for the combined effort of Academy Motorsport and Alex Caffey Motorsport this weekend. Could he claim his first ever Euro NASCAR win? We've seen him on the podium. We've not seen him at the top step of the podium as yet. Former Euro NASCAR Pro champion from a couple of years ago, Loris Hazemans, will be one to watch out for. I would add into that as well, Ulysse Delceau, back having missed a season, could be one to watch out for. And the list just goes on and on and on. We've not mentioned double former champion Luca Lasser. Mark Goossens, who's always going to be towards the front. He's moved over to DF1 racing in a very lurid purple and pink machine. You can see it just heading out of pit lane as they head out there to start the qualifying session. And of course, back to Cal Racing, secured the championship last year with Anthony Kumpen's team, PK Carsport, but they're not taking part in the championship this year. They're away and focusing on other things nowadays, or at least for this season. So Alan Day is back to familiar territory, really, gone back to Cal Racing, where he secured his first 2 championships. So lots and lots to look forward to, and I've even missed out there, number 22, Nicola Rocca, another driver who could be there. Real strength in depth yet again this season in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, as all of the cars head out there into what I'm sure is going to be a very, very busy qualifying session. So it'll just take a while for the cars to build up their temperatures into their brakes and to their tyres as well. Not the lightest of cars either. The 5.7 litre, so that's what, 350 cubic inch, isn't it? V8 engines, of course. They all run a 4-speed manual gearbox, or there is an option for this year to run a sequential option in it. It's still a manual gearbox, but it's got a sequential selection aspect to it. And they produce around about 400 brake horsepower, so that's fairly powerful, but it also isn't the lightest of cars as well. It's around about 2,700 pounds, so that's what, 1,225 kilos, something like that. So they are pretty heavy cars, pretty raw cars, and they do provide some fantastic, some pure racing. So through shot there goes the number 50 car. That's Vittorio Garelli. He's the reigning Euro NASCAR 2 champion, stepping up to the top level of European NASCAR this year. The 27-year-old Italian, former AutoGP champion as well. There's Loris Hasemans at the wheel of the number 7 Hendrix Motorsport car for this year. Used to seeing him in the number 50, of course, for which he claimed the championship overall. Hendrix also won the team's championship with that number 50 car last year. But for Loris Hasemans, he'll want to see what he can do here. He was quickest in free practice yesterday, for which most of the drivers took part. I say most, the car's just heading on to their first flying lap now, so I'll tell you why I say most, and that's because, of course, NASCAR Whelen Euro Series has many different nationalities represented, and for Nave Talor and Alan Day, I'm sure you've seen on the news, there are difficulties and troubles in the part of the world where they live at the moment, which is Israel, and as a result of those troubles, they struggled to get out of the country in reality. So a rather detoured route through a couple of countries and more flights than were anticipated meant that they did arrive at the circuit, but they only arrived late yesterday after all of the free practice had taken place, which meant they'd lost track time, and they'd lost a chunk of track time as well. So in consultation with the organisers, and I've got to say hats off, with the support of every other team and every other competitor, they were allocated just 15 minutes of free practice this morning, just prior to this session, just to get used to the track. So well done for them to making it to the circuit and the difficulties that they've had. And certainly hats off, I would say, to all of the other competitors and the teams for agreeing to the fact that they could slot in this extra session that had never been planned, just to allow them to have a little bit of track time heading into this qualifying session. So the cars are on their first flying lap. We're looking at Loris Hasemans. He posted a best in the free practice sessions yesterday for 1 minute 41.64. So that's the kind of times we should be getting down to fairly quickly on new tyres, not necessarily on the first flying lap, which is just about to now be chalked into the book. So over the start-finish line comes Loris Hasemans. It's one of the DF1 racing cars, Nicola Rocca, I think, that's behind him, the number 22 car in the hands of the Italian. So for Loris Hasemans, he posts a 1 minute 45.0, but it's a 1 minute 43.7 for Nicola Rocca. Straight away to the top of the times goes Nicola Rocca, but the first lap for the number 7 Ford wasn't as quick as Loris Hasemans would have liked. At the moment, he is 1.3 seconds adrift on his first flying lap of the car that's chasing him around the circuit. So heading through towards the next right-hander, and then they'll start to thunder their way down the straight and in towards the next left-hander. Quite a technical infield section to this track. Loris Hasemans just picking his way, using all of the curb, but not too much in reality, as he goes up towards Curva de l'Efficient, which is the flat-out turn 7 here, onto the brakes and up towards the left-hander at Bernard Martinet. The sector times from Loris Hasemans suggesting that this is going to be a quicker lap, and at the moment is certainly on a par with what Nicola Rocca did on his first flying lap, so could be a good lap for the number 7 here. Through turns number 9 and 10, up towards turn number 11, and then towards Champilleros, which is where he's going now. The very difficult turn number 12, as we heard from Fred Gabillon, and then round through the sweeping unnamed turn number 13 and up towards the final corner, which is Adrian Campos. Onto the brakes, down in towards second gear, pitch the car in towards the left-hander, pick up the throttle as soon as you can. Be careful not to run too wide, because there were several drivers lost lap times yesterday for running wide beyond the circuit limits. And this lap time from Loris Hasemans, he's third at the moment. Where is it going to put him? It puts him to the top of the times, 1 minute 41.665. Nicola Rocca, who followed him around on that lap, goes second quickest, improving his time to a 1 minute 42.136. Tomo Ferrando, a former Euro NASCAR 2 champion, is third at the moment, and Patrick Lamery is fourth currently, or was, yes, is still fourth. No, it was fourth. Mark Goossens just goes into fourth place with a 1 minute 43.530. So the time's still bouncing around at the moment. There's a few cars we have not seen in this session as yet. So the likes of Vittorio Garelli has not done a lap as yet. Neither has Giorgio Maggi. And great to see returning to the championship as well, Ian-Eric Varden, who returned to the championship. I think we've managed to grab somebody to have a quick word with. So Andre Weigold should have managed to catch up with somebody.
Circuit Ricardo Tormo in sunny Valencia, Spain. Before we talk to the first driver, make sure to leave a comment on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitch. My colleague Gianluca Guia is there to answer all of your questions, and later in the race I will be there for you. So Simon Pilato racing for D1 Racing in this year. It's the first time for you to drive for that team, and you're with your mentor, Patrick Lemery from D1 Racing. How's the relationship between you and Patrick Lemery, and how are you working together?
So we work together to get the best out of the car possible. On the setups also, we have pretty similar feelings with the car and driving style. So it makes it easier for us. It's just all about progress and learning a lot of things from him with all his experience. So yeah.
You're driving in the Euro NASCAR 2 division later in the qualifying. You had the free practice yesterday. How was the feeling in the car?
The feeling was quite good. We tried different things with different tires. We were able to collect a lot of data to help us find a good setup for this morning. And so hopefully we'll have a good setup for qualifying.
All right, thank you so much, Simon Pilat. Back to Mark.
So there we go, Simon Pilat. Hopefully you could hear what he was saying. I had no audio at all for that, but a driver who had his rookie season last year, finished fourth in the rookie standings in Euro NASCAR 2 with 8th overall in the championship, and is certainly has got a bright future ahead of him, the young 19-year-old Belgian. Since we've had a chat with Simon Pilat, and Loris Hasemans and Nicola Rocca are still first and second in this session. We have a quick look there at Luigi Ferreira, who is 7th quickest at the moment at the wheel of the Shadow. 1 minute 44.076 for Luigi Ferreira, who took in 4 NASCAR Whelen Euro Series races last year. He did the races at Franciacorta and the races that we did at Zolder in Belgium as well. We saw him also out just for a couple of races in 2019 as well, but he's a driver that has certainly had plenty of success over the years. He was runner-up in the TCR Italian Series back in 2018. He was champion in the Porsche Carrera Cup in Italy back in 2008, and he was also a Formula 3 champion in Italy as well, if I remember correctly, as well as a Formula Renault champion when he was racing in single-seaters. So Luigi Ferreira could be one to watch out for at the wheel of the 42 racing machine. The 39-year-old Italian pressing on this lap. He is 7th quickest with that best of 1 minute 44.067, which is what he posted last time around. Sector times this time suggesting he's quick through the middle part of the lap, but the start of the lap didn't quite go to plan for him. So it's a bit nip and tuck as to whether he will gain any further places. He's just working his way now out of the final corner. Adrian Campos, and are we going to see him get down into the 1 minute 43-second bracket? It's a big long straight here. You can see the length of it. It's the best part of 780 feet, or 240 meters. Luigi Ferreira, did he go any quicker? Yes, he did. 1 minute 43.525, but he's still 7th quickest. Goes quicker, but does not gain any places on the starting grid potentially. So it's Loris Hasemans from Nicola Rocca. Tomo Ferrando from Sebastian Bleekie-Molen has now popped up into 4th position. Great to see Sebastian back in the championship. We didn't see the Bleekie-Molen team, Team Bleekie-Molen, in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series in 2020. Fred Gabion is 5th, Mark Goossens is 6th, Luigi Ferreira we're looking at is 7th, Ulysse Delso, Henry Tuamala and Davide De Lara complete the top 10 at the moment. We have not as yet seen out on track still either Luca Lasser, double former champion is Luca, from back in 2009, 2010. We have not seen Giorgio Maggi, former runner-up in the Euro NASCAR 2 division, and we haven't seen our reigning champion and 3 times a champion now in Euro NASCAR Pro, Alan Day, out on track as yet. That's not cause for concern, because there is still a good chunk of this qualifying session still to go, and on the basis of you need to look after those tyres, you don't just want to keep putting laps in. If you're happy to pop a lap in, and in the case of Loris Hasemans and Nicola Rocca, then just sit in the pit lane, you're saving the car, you're saving your tyres more importantly. In fact, the top 4 cars in this session are all now in the pit lane. Loris Hasemans, Nicola Rocca, Tomo Ferrando and Sebastian Bleekemolen are all sitting rather patiently in the pit lane, and if they need to, of course, they will head back out onto track. But for Loris Hasemans, you can see the lap time he put in there, 0.7 of a second quicker than anybody else has managed in this session so far. Up towards the conclusion of another lap. This is Ulysse Delso, I think, that we're looking at here, and heading in towards the braking area. Yes, it is, trying to get used to all the subtly new liveries on the cars, but yeah, Ulysse Delso, another former Euro NASCAR 2 champion, stepped up to Euro NASCAR Pro a season or so ago now. He was the champion in Euro NASCAR 2 back in 2018, still only 23 years of age, the young Frenchman, and went really well in the esports series, where he was 5th in that back in 2020. So he took a sabbatical last year, so he didn't see him competing at all. The best time that he's popped in is a 1 minute 43.854. Vittorio Garelli has just gone 3rd quickest there, the reigning Euro NASCAR 2 champion, making his mark in Euro NASCAR Pro for the first time, so he could be one to watch out for. And that car there is Davide Dallara, who is at the moment running in 14th position. Davide Dallara, he's the reigning Challenger champion, Davide Dallara. And if you're wondering what the Challenger Championship is, because maybe you're new to Euro NASCAR, that is the Challenger Championship is for amateur drivers that enter Euro NASCAR Pro. So in other words, they're all either given a bronze, a silver or a gold allocation, and silver or bronze drivers that race in Euro NASCAR Pro are eligible for the Challenger Trophy, and Davide Dallara is the reigning champion in that, having scooped up that title last year. Onto the brakes, in towards the left-hander, and is about to head on to another qualifying lap again. As for Ulysse Delso, let's just have a quick look at his times, and his times are, no, a little bit off. So yeah, not surprising he's just juked his way into the pit lane. That was probably always going to be the plan anyway. Out on the track comes Henry Tuamala and Tomo Ferrando. Tomo Ferrando in the number 1 car, the Academy Motorsport, Alex Caffey Motorsport, in the hands of the 23-year-old Frenchman, another former Euro NASCAR 2 champion. He was a champion back in 2017. As we now catch up with Alan Day out on circuit, and Alan is now completing 1 flying lap. His first flying lap was a 1 minute 43.288. Remember, he's only had 15 minutes free practice just earlier on this morning, not the 2 full, I think there were 45-minute free practice sessions that everybody had yesterday, so an hour and a half out on track. So he's giving away track time to them, but it's a circuit that Alan certainly knows very, very well. Remember, he's already had 3 pole positions here. That's the most poles from any one driver. He's had the most starts, 14 starts as well, Alan Day, and he has certainly claimed some wins along the way as well, with a win back in 2016. He did the double in 2018 and took a couple of wins last year as well in the super speed weekend. So what is this lap going to look like for Alan Day is the big question. He's pushing hard, using all of the track limits, but trying to stay within them as he carves his way through the next of the right-handers and then starts to make his way down the straight in towards Champieros, which is where the circuit starts to sort of climb up towards the left and the right. Fabrizio Amata back in the championship as well. Great to see Fabrizio back with us. He's raced in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series sporadically since 2013 as Fabrizio. And also back with us is Gianmarco Ercoli with Cal Racing once more, another former Euro NASCAR 2 champion. He was champion back in 2015, so there's plenty, as I've said, of strength in depth. Alan Day's time just pops in, goes 4th quickest that time through Alan Day, so disposes Tomo Ferrando down to 5th position. 1 minute 42 from Alan Day, 1 minute 42.303, but Gianmarco Ercoli, we just saw that number 54 car, has just popped in the 2nd quickest time in this session. 1 minute 41.849 for Urkeli. Still, however, 0.7 of a second shy of Loris Hazemans, who at the moment is looking good for pole position. There is the purple machine. I was talking about the colour of Mark Goosen's car. I think that's the first real time that I've picked up on it. It's sort of purple and pink, and it's got flashes of yellow to it in the hands of the 51-year-old Belgian, who's been hugely successful on both sides of the Atlantic with motorsport. Former Formula Ford Festival winner as well, of course, if you remember back in 1991, wasn't it? He claimed the infamous Brands Hatch Indy Circuit Formula Ford Festival title. And last year finished 5th in Euro NASCAR Pro. So lots of racing in IMSA series as well. Raced at Le Mans, raced in his single-seater career, got as far as Formula 3000 did Mark Goosens, and claimed wins at that level when it was hugely competitive, but never quite got the break or the opportunity to get towards Formula 1 did Mark Goosens. I spoke to him a couple of years ago and he said Formula 1 wouldn't have worried him, that he'd loved to have raced at Indianapolis, and he knows at 51 that's never going to happen now, but that's for him is the one thing he felt that he really missed out on in his career. He's pushing hard at this stage, looking to try and see whether he can haul his way up from what is 14th on the grid at the moment for Mark Goosens, and I think he's backed out of the lap. Yeah, he caught the car just in the wrong spot and has backed out of that lap, so we're going to see the Goose, I think, try and go for another lap, but will leave a larger gap in front of the car that he was chasing. So onto another lap goes Mark Goosens. I don't think this one's going to count for a great deal at all. So Loris Hazemans from Allende, who's now popped up into second with 1 minute 41.832, but still, still agonising, 0.7 of a second adrift. Here's Fred Gabillon. Fred, who did the onboard lap with us, has just come out of the pit lane. He's 9th quickest currently. This is another new driver to us for this weekend, this season, Andrea Nori, who has got plenty of motorsport experience, but most of it has been in the likes of either the World Rally Championship or historic rallying. So it's nice to see the Italian out and joining not only motorsport for what we certainly believe is going to be the full 2021 NASCAR Whelen Euro Series Championship season. So Andrea Nori is 17th quickest at the moment, and he's got some big names behind him. He's got former Euro NASCAR 2 champion Ulysse Del So is slower, former number 23 Henry Tuamala, who was a former Challenger champion, behind him on the grid. The reigning Challenger champion Davide Dallara behind him on the grid, and number 44 as well, which is Ian Eric Varden, a former Legend champion, behind him on the grid. So there's a few quick drivers that are actually behind Andrea Nori, who's making his debut in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series this weekend. Now, slows the car down there, just letting Vittorio Garelli, that looked like, go by. It wasn't Giorgio Maggi, difficult to tell those two apart. It's Giorgio Maggi, just seen the number 18 on it, so it's Giorgio Maggi that he let go through. So this is a lap that is not going to count for Andrea Nori. Just staying well and truly out of harm's way. He's certainly not going to be making many enemies at all. Plenty of friends as he just, watches his mirrors. Moves entirely off the racing line. Sensible driving by Andrea, and even there giving a little indication out of the window that he's seen the car, let it go by. Now this is Jacques Villeneuve out on track. Where is Jacques at the moment? 11th quickest. His best is a 1 minute 42.777, but this is not going to be a flying lap from him as Mark Goosens sides his way by. Where is the number 77, 14th quickest for Mark Goosens, who was able to get past Jacques Villeneuve there and not lose any time. Jacques probably building to a quick lap now, is he? So with the session still continuing, not a great deal of time left in this session, I would have thought. We'll have to wait and see as to whether there's any more twists and turns in it. Remember, this just sets the grid for the first race of the weekend. It's the fastest lap times from race number 1 that happens later on today. Will then give us the grid for tomorrow's race as well. Jacques Villeneuve's taking a very slow lap round, so this is surely going to be a call into the pits at the end of this particular lap. It's still Loris Hazemans that is fastest. Alan Day is second. Gianmarco Urkeli is third. Nicola Rocco, Vittorio Garelli and Luigi Ferreira, and Tomo Ferrando complete the top 6 at this stage, with Giorgio Maggi, Sebastian Bliquimol and Fred Gabillon, and then Luigi Ferreira, who complete the top 10. The car we're looking at, Jacques Villeneuve, is 11th at the moment, but this lap time is not going to move him any further up. Double former champion Luca Lasser is only 12th at this stage, so there's a few big names that are a little bit further down than one might have expected. And one thing I'm hugely impressed with is the pace of Loris Hazeman's in this session. 1 minute 41.156 on his brand new tyres is half a second quicker than anybody managed in the combined free practice sessions that took place yesterday. So Fred Gabion onto a quick one. Can he pull himself up from 9th position on the grid at this stage, Fred? 12th in Euro NASCAR Pro back in 2019. He did not compete last year, RTV competition, and it's two drivers, Fred Gabion and Ulysse Delceau, all took sabbaticals last year because of the COVID pandemic. 3 times a runner-up in the series, a former Renault Megane Trophy champion back in 1999. Started his career with a bit of single-seater racing in the likes of Formula Renault, but also took in some Porsche Carrera Cup France, I think, as well at some stage. Fred Gabion has been a regular part of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series for, well, what, 10 years now. Works his way through Curva de l'Efficient up towards Bernard Martinez, which is turn number 8, second gear, starts to go off, camber on the exit of the corner, so very easy to run wide. And then through this section that Fred was talking about, where some drivers take it in third, others head towards second. He'll certainly be down into second as he heads up towards turn number 11, and then you feed the power in out of turn number 11, shift up to third, stay in third as you flip the car in towards turn number 12, which is Champilleros, and then start to crest the hill as he was talking about. And this is the area where it's difficult to see because some of the interior of the car obscures really where the apex is, and you're going uphill in towards a blind area as well. Onto the brakes, difficult to a little bit sideways there. I'm going to say easy to run wide as you carry too much speed because you're going downhill, and that's exactly what Fred did. Picked the throttle a little bit early as well. Is the lap time going to be any better from Fred Gabion? It was an improved time, a 1 minute 42.427 for Fred Gabion, but it didn't improve his position. He still stays, I'm afraid, 9th quickest at this stage. So no improvement there. Now this is Yevgen Sokolovsky. We saw huge amounts of Yevgen last year as he competed in both Euro NASCAR Pro and Euro NASCAR 2. He's doing the same again this year, the 42-year-old Ukrainian. Great to see him back. He was runner-up in the Legend category in Euro NASCAR 2. That's for drivers aged over 40 that race in Euro NASCAR 2. But say he was also competing in Euro NASCAR 1. Oh, Euro NASCAR Pro rather, and he was 3rd in the Challenger Trophy last year. So that's for the amateur drivers that race in Euro NASCAR Pro. So busy man over the course of a race weekend. So he's got what, a 60-kilometre race and a 75-kilometre race to do today, on top of 2 lots of half-an-hour qualifying. So he's going to be one tired and worn-out Ukrainian at the end of this weekend. He's not the only one, though, that's doing both divisions as well. I think the likes of Ian Eric Varden is doing that. And I'm going to say, is Bernardo Manfrey doing it as well? Yes, he is. So there's a few drivers that are racing in both divisions. So it's the same car that they will use in both divisions. It's not a problem. It just means, yeah, physically, these are tough cars to drive. Ambient temperatures in Spain, thankfully, this time of year, not quite as warm as they've been in another few months, but still warmer than certainly the likes of Ian Eric Varden will be used to up in Finland, his native home. So Yevgen Sokolovsky over the start-finish line. Did he improve the time? No, slower lap from Yevgen that time through. His best is a 1 minute 44.6. That was a 1 minute 45.1. So it certainly looks as though the grid is starting to get pretty much set now. Loris Hazeman's looking, well, for the whole of the session, very comfortable, I've got to say. He popped that quick time in nice and early. It wasn't the quickest, because Nicola Rocca on the first flying lap set the fastest time, but straight away after that, Loris Hazeman's popped the quick time in and has rather been untroubled at the top of the times, excuse me, since then. Alan Day second quickest, Urkely third. You can see just how close it is afterwards. So between second and fourth, we're only talking, what, thousandths of a second in reality. So Alan Day a 1 minute 41.83. Mark Urkely a 1 minute 41.84. Nicola Rocca 1 minute 41.86. So only, what, 3-4 100ths of a second separating second, third and fourth on the grid at this stage. And then quite a gaggle thereafter as well, with the likes of Tomo Ferrando in 6th place, Giorgio Maggi in 7th, not separated by a huge amount either. Yevgen Sokolovsky still pressing on this lap to see whether he can pull his way up through the order any further. 22nd quickest at the moment, which also puts him 7th quickest of the Challenger Trophy drivers. But that's for the amateur drivers racing Euro NASCAR Pro. So there's a bit more work to do for Yevgen over the course of the race. Nice and neat and tidy though out of Adrian Campos as he heads up towards the start-finish line. We're going to see an improvement though. 1 minute 45.1 was his last lap time that he did. And for Yevgen Sokolovsky, it is an improved time that time through. That is a 1 minute 44 that he's just done, 1 minute 44.8. So an improved time, but still not quite as quick as his previous best that he's done. So he's going to remain where he is on the grid at the moment. Now that car there is again one of the shadows, and it's the number 17 car. Very difficult to read the number on the side of that one. It's a red number on a red background, which makes it pretty impossible almost to see. Bernardo Manfredi, the 55-year-old Italian, who is a driver who's come through the recruitment program, Bernardo, and took in 2 NASCAR Whelen Euro Series races last year. Saw him in Vallelunga and at Zolder as well. Of course, last year was our first ever trip to Vallelunga for a round of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, the Italian circuit just outside of Rome, whereas for this weekend we're just outside of Valencia. Where is Bernardo Manfredi in the times? 24th quickest currently. His best is a 1 minute 46.50. Last time through though, he was not far away from it. It was a 1 minute 46.54, so just 4 100ths of a second slower than his previous best last time through. So there could be a possibility of improvement for Bernardo this time. He's about to accelerate his way over the start-finish line, and that was just a wee bit slower once more, just a 1/10 of a second slower, so no improved time for Bernardo Manfredi, being chased around the circuit by Fabrizio Amata. Now time will be running out to try and post any further improvements. Shadow sort of slid a little bit sideways as it went through the left-hander there. Fabrizio Amata, I think, has called off the lap that he was on. He was the car that was behind Bernardo Manfredi. I think it's now going to be the light blue and green, almost Gulf livery reminiscent, isn't it, of Yevgen Sokolovsky, who races for Marco Steep Motorsport, that is now behind him. Still looks as though Yevgen is trying to push on his laps. 1 minute 44.622 is his best in the session so far, which he did post last time through. Bernardo Manfredi, obviously not on a quick lap, just blends out of the throttle, allows the Ukrainian to sneak his way through on the run-up towards Bernard Martinez. There's no more cars all sitting in the pits at the moment. Alan Day, I think, is back out on track though, so the 3 times champion Alan Day rejoining the circuit. Champion in 2017, 2018 and 2020 last year, of course. Maybe he's going to have one more roll of the dice to see whether he can sneak pole position away from Loris Hazelmans. He's not got a lot of laps on those tyres, so we'll have to wait and see as to whether he can find anything else, but there's very little time left now. Oh, big mistake there from Yevgen Sokolovsky. You'd see midway through the corner, the mid-corner oversteer as he corrected it with a little bit opposite lock and had to get back off the throttle once more, and that will have just compromised that lap a little bit, I would have thought, from Yevgen Sokolovsky. He was pushing hard. It was 0.2 of a second slower than his previous best, and the car that's behind him just gone over the start-finish line. Fabrizio Amata was a lot slower than his previous best, so that was not a flying lap from him. I suspect he's now starting at the wheel of that number 55 car, a flying lap. So we'll have to wait and see how he gets on. For Alan Day, though, who is out on circuit, I don't think his attempts to try and steal pole position is going to come to a great deal, because his first sector was about a second slower than it really ought to be. So I don't think Alan Day is going to try and wrestle pole position away from Loris Hazelmans. As for Fabrizio Amata, he will be looking to try and improve on what is 17th position through the first sector. Not bad at all for Fabrizio Amata. Now, what he doesn't want to do is get held up by Alon Day, who I don't think is going to be doing anything other than trundling his way round. Yeah, he has run out of time and run out of opportunities to try and steal pole position away, because the clock has ticked to 0 and his sector times are much, much slower than they'd be on a flying lap. Francesco Cini works his way through. We haven't seen much of Francesco over the course of this qualifying session, so the Solaris Motorsport car in the hands of the number 40, the 40-year-old Italian, goes through. Andrea Nori, I think, has done a good job really for his first qualifying session. 4th quickest of the Challenger Trophy drivers, so that's for the amateur drivers in reality. And 18th overall is not bad at all, I've got to say. So not a bad introduction to the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series for the Not Only Motorsport Italian. With the clock having ticked to 0, any car that's still on a flying lap, of course, can continue with it, but everybody else will no doubt, if they have opted to abort their final lap, will just trundle their way into the pit lane, and then there isn't a great deal of time to service the cars and turn them round again before we get out onto track. The Euro NASCAR 2 competitors, for identical format in reality, they'll get the same amount of time, half an hour qualifying session, and that will sort out the grid for our race later on today. And the fastest lap times from that race later on today will then give us the grid for tomorrow's race, is the way the regulations are written again for this year now. So up towards Adrian Campos comes Andrea Nori. Is he going to continue with the lap? Is he going to head in towards the pit lane? It's the latter. So in towards the pit lane comes Andrea Nori. So that is it for his qualifying session. And I think that is it now pretty much for everybody in this qualifying session. So that brings a conclusion to the first part of qualifying. I'm hoping that we might just be able to run down the list in time. So you can see the banner on the left-hand side of your screens. Pole position goes to Loris Hazemans for the first race of the weekend. And we will head, before we go through all the rest of the positions, we'll head downstairs to the pit lane, where I think Andre has managed to catch up with the pole sitter. So we'll catch up with the pole sitter in a while, so we'll run down through the rest of the order. Loris Hazemans claims pole position. Second quickest was the reigning champion, Alon Day, and third quickest was Gianmarco Ercoli. Ercoli is the quickest of the junior drivers, so that's for drivers aged under 25 that race in Euro NASCAR Pro. Fourth quickest was Nicole Rocca, with fifth being Vittorio Garelli, and sixth quickest being the second of the junior drivers in the category, which is Tomo Ferrando. Seventh was Giorgio Maggi, and in eighth place, leading challenger driver. For the amateur drivers that race in Euro NASCAR Pro, it's Sebastian Bleeky-Molen. Ninth was Fred Gabion. Luigi Ferreira was 10th. Jacques Villeneuve was 11th, ahead of Francesco Cini, who was there in 12th place. Double former champion Luca Leclerc down in 13th, and Mark Goossens only 14th. Ulysse Delso was 15th, ahead of Dario Carzo in 16th place. 17th was Fabrizio Amata. 18th in his debut was Andrea Nori. 19th and 20th were Davide De Lara and Henry Tuamala. Patrick Lemery, who started well, ended up 21st in the end of that qualifying session. Yevgen Sokolovsky was in 22nd position, and 23rd was Ian Eric Varden, with Bernardo Manfredi being the slowest of the 24 cars that we saw out in qualifying for round one of the 2021 NASCAR Whelen Euro Series here at Circuit Ricardo Tormo, just outside of Valencia, for our weekend of the NASCAR Grand Prix of Spain. So we are done and dusted with Euro NASCAR Pro for the moment. We will, of course, see them back out later on today when they will have a race, but it's only sort of by the time all the cars are in the pit lane, it's scheduled to be from when the checkered flag falls for one session and the green flag starts for the next. It's 10 minutes is the layover period, but by the time they're going down and got themselves back into the pit lane, there's only about a 5-minute break, so it won't be long before we see them out onto circuit. In the meantime, let's go downstairs now and chat to our pole sitter.
We're here with the 2019 NASCAR Whelen Euro Series champion, the first pole award winner of the 2021 season in the number 7 car, Loris Hazemans. What was behind that phenomenal lap?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of a strategy play for sure. We saw yesterday in the free practice that the warmer the track was getting, the more the times were going up. So we decided, or I basically decided 10 minutes before the qualifying, I said, let's go right at the beginning when the track is the coolest and try to take advantage of that. And so far it seems to have worked out really well.
So you switched from the 50 car to the 7 car in this year with Hendricks Motorsport. Is there any difference?
Definitely, I'm very comfortable in the number 7 car. I managed to test already last year, and I said I was really happy with that car. And so far, I mean, it's proven to do well, so I can't complain about it for the moment.
So you'll be on the pole position. The first turn is crucial for that race. So what's your strategy there?
I mean, I always say there is not much strategy. You can always plan 10 different thousand scenarios, and then there will always be a different one. I think it's just being alert, being concentrated, and racing smart, thinking about also the long term and about the championship.
All right, thank you very much, Loris Ezemans.
Just a little last thing, I would like to thank my sponsors, obviously, Hazelberg Engineering Systems, Time Zone in Lincoln, Rhode Island, of course R1 Indoor Karting, as well as Euroy.
So there we go, a quick word with Loris Hazemans. Apologies again. I'm getting no audio at all at this end from anything that's coming from down in the pit lane, so that's a slight technical issue that we'll try and resolve. I think you're hearing it. It's just here in the commentary box that I'm not hearing anything at all with regards to the interviews. So we can see that the pit lane has already been vacated by all of the Euro NASCAR Pro drivers. The vast majority of the cars now have been pushed back into their garages, and they will very slowly start to work their way back out into the sunlight again here. Nice, fairly clear day, a slight breeze in the air, but for this time of year it is much warmer than when we were here for what was the Super Speed weekend in early December, wasn't it, when we brought the curtain down on our slightly late and shortened 2020 Euro NASCAR Championship season. But that was the case the world over, wasn't it, really, with all of the changes and adjustments having to be made for everything that we do and the procedures, just to try and make sure that we got some motor racing in last year. And hopefully now the world is heading in a better direction, and there's still challenges ahead, I'm sure, and there might be further changes ahead, who knows. But what we do know is that at least we're getting this race in, and hopefully we can look forward to heading towards the likes of Autodrome Most in the Czech Republic at some point, Brands Hatch, Hockenheimring, back to Autodrome Grobnik in Croatia. We had our first Croatian NASCAR Grand Prix last year, Circuit Zolder, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Autodrome de Vallelunga, because that was originally scheduled to be the 3rd and 4th round of the 2021 season. That has now been put back towards the back end of the season, but with the date still to be announced as well. So we hope that we can get a full season in. But as ever, Team FJ and all of our championship partners and our circuit partners as well, all working tirelessly hard during this pandemic to ensure that we can bring you the racing, and hopefully, more importantly, get the fans back as well. We've only got 2,000 is the limitations that we are allowed for here this weekend, and those 2,000 fans will be spread around the circuit as well. The one good thing about Circuit Ricardo Tormo is that there is no shortage of grandstand seating for them to go into. 120,000 grandstand seats at Circuit Ricardo Tormo, so 2,000 people around this circuit spread around is going to look like there aren't many, but at least it's 2,000 more than we thought we were going to get just a matter of a few weeks ago. So session building up, we can start to see a couple of the cars just nudging their way out onto the track. I think that was Tom Krasinas we just had a quick wave from. It was certainly one of the Alex Caffey Motorsport cars, so I think it was Tom Krasinas, because the other very similarly liveried car is Jacques Villeneuve's, and that car, the number 5 car, is not out with anybody in this session. So new batch of drivers largely heading out. There were some that were in that earlier session that are competing in both Euro NASCAR Pro and Euro NASCAR 2. The likes of Bernardo Manfrey is doing both. We'll see him back out at the wheel of the number 1742 racing car. We'll see the number 44 DF1 racing Chevy in the hands of Ian Eric Varden, the 56-year-old Finnish driver, back out, and also that number 48 car of Yevgen Sokolovsky. Both of those, or all three of those drivers, competing in both divisions over the course of this weekend. So this is Euro NASCAR 2 that's coming out now. This is restricted to silver and bronze drivers, so in other words, it's for young and it's for amateur drivers. So Euro NASCAR 2 is the championship, but then there are separate championships within that. We have the Legend Trophy, which is for drivers that are aged over 40. at the beginning of the season. We have the Rookie Trophy, which for drivers making their Euro Series debuts, and that's regardless of their age and regardless of their experience as well. And we also have the Lady Trophy, which is for female drivers, for which, again, we are going to see that competed. It was won by Julia Landauer last year, who actually finished on the overall podium here as well. Julia, who had a fantastic debut season. There is, as we say, Tom Krasinas. Nice to see Tom back in the championship. He raced in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series in 2019. The teenage Greek driver, just 19 years of age, I think Tom still. Raced in the Junior Saloon Car Championship in the UK. Did a bit of karting prior to that. There's the number 22 car. That's been taken over by the hugely experienced German driver Justin Kuntz. Still only 23 years of age is Justin. Finished 10th in Euro NASCAR Pro last year. He was 3rd in juniors. But for this year, he stepped back to Euro NASCAR 2 to concentrate on that. And I think could be a driver to watch in Euro NASCAR 2 this year. Who do we need to watch in Euro NASCAR 2? Well, we briefly saw heading out onto track the number 1 car, the Ford of Vladimir Joitsis, the Cypriot driver. I think of all of the drivers I saw last year, I think he was the one that impressed me more than anything, really. Vladimir has done a bit of karting and Formula Renault and Formula 4 in the past. He came through the recruitment program again. But in his debut season, he managed to finish 4th in Euro NASCAR 2 and was hugely impressive and very consistent, I've got to say. He was also 5th in the eSports series that we've only just recently concluded as well. So a very bright talent is Vladimir's choices. I think he could be one to watch out for this year. The number 7 Hendricks Ford, Martin Dubeck, Czech driver, is likely to be towards the sharp end. The number 22 I've mentioned, Justin Kuntz, I think will be there as well. We've got Pierluigi Veronesi coming back in, the 32-year-old Italian. Be interesting to see what he does. Tobias Dauenhauer, without question, one of the favourites for the championship, the number 50 Hendricks Ford. Watch out for him. And also we heard from Simon Palat, the teenage Belgium driver who was chatting to Andre earlier on. The number 66 car could be another one that we need to keep an eye towards. But again, that's just picking out a few, and that's not doing a disservice to anybody, but there are others that I perhaps should have mentioned that I've not. Over the start-finish line, ready to start the flying lap comes Justin Kuntz. Some of the other cars still just trickling their way out of the pit lane to join the circuit. A bit of weaving being done still from Vladimir Joitsis, I think that is, just to try and build a bit more temperature into his tyres, as flicking it in towards the left-hander, which is Aspar. The first corner comes Didier Beck. Didier, nice to see him back in the championship, Didier. We've not seen him for a season or so now, but 2013 he first made his appearance in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series and was a regular right the way up until 2018. So nice to see him back in the championship. One of the older drivers that we've got in the field, not the oldest. He's 58 years of age now, is Didier Beck. The oldest driver we've got is Michael Bleeky-Molen, who a couple of seasons ago celebrated his 70th birthday. Was he 71, I think, now, Michael Bleeky-Molen. So, driver who, in his early stages of his career, raced in Formula 1 for a couple of seasons, did Michael, with some of the lesser teams, the likes of Ram and ATS, but still raced in a very, very competitive era of Formula 1 in the late 70s. So, pushing on comes Didier Beck. Didier is eligible for the Legend Trophy. That is for drivers aged 40 and over at the beginning of the season. And looking to try and push on his first flying lap. So, times should be coming into us very shortly. Quick change of screen, we'll see times popping up. Justin Kuntz has the only driver that's a flying lap so far, 1 minute 45.619, sees him to the top of the times. Through goes Didier Beck, and he pops in a 1 minute 48.803 for Didier, so goes second quickest at the moment, albeit 3 seconds slower than the first flying lap that Justin Kuntz, the German driver, did. Now we have a slightly smaller entry, I think, in Euro NASCAR 2 this weekend. We have 24 drivers out in Euro NASCAR Pro. I think we've maybe got one less in Euro NASCAR 2. In free practice yesterday, the number 1 car of Vladimir's Choices was quickest. He posted a 1 minute 42.372. So that's the kind of times we will get down to roughly in this session, because remember, drivers have got more track time, therefore they've understood the circuit a bit more, they've understood the new Hosier tyre, and of course they've got 4 brand new tyres that are all heading out into this session in. Second quickest was the number 50 Hendricks Ford in the combined practice times yesterday of Tobias Dauenhauer. Third quickest was sister car to it. That, I'm afraid to say, stopped on the side of the circuit, is Alina Leubniger, the Austrian who is making her debut in the series, and also off with damage to the front right-hand corner, that looks like. That looks like Gallo Valeri, another driver who is new to us for this season. He secured victory in Division 2 of the Italian Cup last year. Now, depending on where those cars are parked, yeah, red flags coming out. Not surprised, just seen them on the marshal's posts there. I did wonder whether we might have to have a full course caution, but the decision has been taken by the race directors to throw the red flag and bring a halt to this qualifying session, which is a real shame because the times were just starting to come in. So let's hope that whatever has befallen Alina Leubniger and Paolo Valeri, both of their cars are able to continue for part 2 of the session. It just looks like Paolo Valeri's car was down on the front right-hand side. There's no obvious damage from that angle of Alina Leubniger's car. Alina, not her first outing, I think I said it was her debut. It's not. She did some Club Challenge racing with us back in 2019. Club Challenge is the regularity test that took place yesterday. Congratulations to Gordon Barnes on his first victory in that. But yeah, Alina Leubniger did a Club Challenge event at, I think it was Hockenheim last year. Don't know a great deal more about her. She's Austrian. I think, and it might not be the same family, but I think her father, Roman, might have raced in the European Touring Car Championship right at the sharp end in the 1970s. I think he was, you know, top 3, top 5 in that championship. I think there was certainly a Roman Leubniger that raced and was Austrian back in the 70s. So 2 and 2 together might not be 4, but I do wonder whether they're related. I will try and endeavour to get some clarification on that. Yeah, you can see just that car there, Paolo Valeri's. It was difficult from that angle, but it certainly looked as though the teleloader was coming out to lift that car, and the corner workers, the marshals, were on that front right corner, so suggesting that there is some damage to it. So red flags out to Justin Kuntz, setting the fastest time with only just really 1 flying lap before the red flags came out. The German with a 1 minute 45.619, as you can see in the bottom left corner of your screen. Second quickest was the number 7 Hendricks Motorsport car of the Czech driver Martin Dubek. He posted a 1 minute 45.698. That car there, Miguel Gomez, the Portuguese driver, 6th quickest before the red flags came out, so he'll be pleased with that. Let me just tell you a little bit about Miguel Gomez, because again, he's another driver that is making his debut in the series over the course of this weekend, and he has raced European Late Models Series in the past as Miguel Gomez. He is a rookie for this year. He is over 40 as well, because he's eligible for Legend Trophy. But again, other than that, not a great deal more I can tell you. Right, it does look as though Alina Leubniger's car also needs some sort of mechanical assistance. So that will be moved out of harm's way. And whilst they're being moved out of harm's way, let's just tell you the cars that did actually set some times. Quickest was number 22 Justin Kuntz, 1 minute 45.619. Second quickest was number 7 Martin Dubek, 1 minute 45.698. Third quickest was number 10 Didier Beck, 1 minute 48.803. And fourth was the car that has been involved in this red flag incident, number 8 Paolo Valeri with a 1 minute 51.317. But remember, most of these cars had only done 1 flying lap. Fifth returning to the championship, delighted to see him back, number 56 racing for Cal once more, Advait Dioda, 1 minute 51.365. Miguel Gomez, I just mentioned, the Portuguese driver making his debut in the series. Number 46 car was 6th quickest with 1 minute 53.821, and 7th was number 2, which is Tom Krasinas, the green teenager, with a 1 minute 57.616. And those were the only cars that managed to get in a flying lap before the red flags came out. So this is Vladimir's Choices, quickest on combined free practice times yesterday. Pleased as punch was Vladimir's Choices, who, as we say, finished 4th in the Euro NASCAR 2 standings last year, did Vladimir Stoicis. Don't think we actually saw him on an overall podium until the very final race weekend here at Valencia. So he will hope to revisit that podium again, one would have thought. Alina Leubniger's car is just being hoisted out of the way. There's the Speedhouse entered car. That is Lucas Lasserre's team of Eric Quintal, who again is another driver that has been with the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series sporadically since its almost beginnings. I think the first season of, not that it was called NASCAR Euro Series at the time, but it was 2009. It became badged NASCAR for the first time in 2012, but it was a race car Euro Series it used to be called. But Eric Quintal can count on his fingers all the way back to 2010 when he first appeared, so the second ever year of racing in it. So Alina Leubniger's car being brought out of the way. Investigations underway at race control with regards to what happened between cars number 12 and car number 8. There is Pierluigi Veronesi. Nice to see Pierluigi Veronesi back in the championship. We have not seen him for a season now. He sat out the 2020 season. He finished 7th in Euro NASCAR 2 in 2019. He was 12th back in 2018 as well. And Pierluigi, through his Spommer work, does a lot of work for charity to raise funds for a cause that is very close to his particular heart. There's Ariana Cassoli, another regular in the championship. The legend champion for 2020 was Ariana Cassoli, finished 11th in the Euro NASCAR 2 standings and is twice a ladies champion as well. In the past 2016, 2019, she was a ladies champion. The 47-year-old Italian racing in those familiar colours again, the number 54 car for Cal Racing. Used to share the car with Alan Day for a good number of seasons, but with Alan moving over to PK Car Sport and then returning to Cal, he is sharing with Max Lancer for this year, who we will see out in this session driving the number 88. Max, who broke his wrist last year, that was at Circuit Grobnik, and had to have an operation once he returned home to fix it. Former bike racer as well is Max Lancer. Might be used to broken bones, but yeah, driving a NASCAR. I think it was just, it went into the tyre wall, and I think either he maybe had his hand on the wheel or it snapped around a little bit. So there is Max Lancer. So there is a thumbs up from Max Lancer. Sweeping up being done, and then hopefully we'll be able to get the circuit back into racing condition very, very shortly indeed. So the session is scheduled to resume at 11 o'clock, which means we're about 7 minutes away still from being able to get the session underway. So what we can do is show you something very different. Now, NASCARs are used to racing on tarmac. You might have seen them over in America racing on the dirt at Bristol recently, but how about racing them on ice? Let's have a look. So there we go, NASCAR's on ice, something very, very different indeed, and that was the Euro NASCAR CEO and President, I think Jerome Galpin, behind the wheel of that one at Val Thorens, on studded tyres, not unsurprisingly. Does that mean that we can look into that for the future with NASCAR on dirt at Bristol having gone down so well? I actually don't know. The honest answer is I don't know. but it would be good, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be fantastic to see NASCAR racing on ice? Something very, very, very different, and yeah, slightly different to the weather conditions that we've got here in Valencia. So keep your eye on that one, because there may be news in the future. There is a rather disgruntled looking Alina Leubniger, who didn't even get a lap in, I don't think, Alina, before the problems befell her. Let's just have a quick look. No, Alina Leubniger. I wonder whether, because the pit lane exit here at Circuit Ricardo Tormo is right on the way in towards turn number 1, and I recall a couple of years ago in the driver briefing, all of the drivers were told when you're joining the circuit just to be very mindful of cars coming around the track, because the pit lane exit is almost on the point of the racing line, and therefore both those exiting the pit lane and those on a flying lap need to be careful. So I just wonder there whether maybe something happened with a car on a flying lap at the same time as somebody was exiting the pit lane. I generally don't know, because I didn't see what happened, but let's hope that both cars are repairable without too much damage for the racing later on. But it does mean that the likes of Alina Leubniger, who hadn't posted a time, is now highly likely to be starting towards the back of the Euro NASCAR 2 grid. And for the other car that was involved, which was Paolo Valeri, well, he's 4th quickest, but of course everybody had only done one flying lap, and by the time everybody then gets everything up to temperature, pops all their flying laps in, all Paolo is going to do is tumble down through the order. So he is also highly likely to be down towards the tail end of the field. So 1 minute 51.3, even on combined practice times yesterday, would have put him right the way down at the back. Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're going to see Alina Leubniger and Paolo Valeri both towards the tail end of the field. So as for what's going on over the rest of this weekend in terms of streaming, of course, you've joined us for qualifying. We sincerely thank you for joining us for qualifying for the divisions, but we've got racing coming up later on, so if you want to join us for the racing, don't disappear just yet. We've still got Euro NASCAR Pro qualifying to get done and dusted, but the first race of the day gets underway at 13:45 Central European time with round 1 of the 2021 NASCAR Whelen Euro Series for the NASCAR Pro Division. If you're watching in the US, 7:45 Eastern time, and then Euro NASCAR 2 will be back out on circuit later on today with their race. Once they've qualified, they'll have their race at 16:45 Central European time. That's 10:45 AM Eastern time. You can also see tomorrow as well, we've got Euro NASCAR 2 and Euro NASCAR Pro all streamed live from Circuit Ricardo Tormo in Valencia, 10:15 in the morning if you're watching in Central Europe. Rather early, 4:45 Eastern time in the US, and the pro race will be live as well, so you can join us for all of the action over the course of what is going to be a busy and a thoroughly exciting opening racing race weekend for our 2021 season. So green flag waves at the end of the pit lane, cars heading back out onto the circuit. The car that was at the front of the queue is Tobias Dauenhauer by the look of things. So the runner-up in Euro NASCAR 2 last year, he was the rookie champion last year. It was his first season of Euro NASCAR, so he claimed the rookie crown, but didn't claim the overall crown. He finished runner-up in that too. Vittorio Gorelli, who stepped up to Euro NASCAR Pro for this year. So at the front of the queue for Dauenhauer, he'll want to try and press on and get a quick lap in. Now, the problem for these cars is that, of course, they're now putting those tyres through another heat cycle. Now, it's a combination of wear to the tyre and heat cycles that they don't like. You put a tyre through too many heat cycles, and that is where a tyre goes from cold to warm up, back to cold again, and you warm it up and it goes back to cold again. That has an effect on its durability. It's the same with metal and things like that, and jet engines, you know, it's all done on heat cycles more than anything. So it's another heat cycle going through the tyres, which isn't ideal. Hoosier make a fantastic tyre, absolutely fantastic tyre, but it does affect it because you're putting it through another cycle to get it warm again on this out lap, and that is what they'll all be working to do, to build that tyre temperature, build that brake temperature up as well. We're looking at Levi Lintekantu racing for Ice Boys DF1, as it's known, and I say it's known as Ice Boys DF1, that particular car. That's because Henry Tuamala, the Finnish driver, drives it in Euro NASCAR Pro, and well, another Finn, Levi Lintekantu, drives it in Euro NASCAR 2, so it's known as Ice Boys DF1 on the entry list for this weekend. And Levi, a driver who did join us for the Super Speed Week finals, made his debut in December of last year here at the Super Speed Week finals, which included, what, 4 races for each division over the course of the weekend to conclude our 2020 season. So, some of the cars onto flying laps. Martin Dubeck onto his flying lap now at the wheel of the number 7 Hendricks Ford, sharing that car with Loris Hazemans for this year. Loris moving over from the number 50 Hendricks Ford to the number 7. They'll be certainly a pairing I would have thought to watch out for in the Teams Championship, because it's the Team Championship is decided by the car number, so points from the driver in Euro NASCAR Pro plus the points from the driver in Euro NASCAR 2 added together creates our Teams Championship over the course of the 2021 season. And I think that number 7 car is going to be a very strong car when it comes to the Teams Championship. Martin Dubeck pushing hard, looking to see what he might be able to do. Driver who has not had a pole position, certainly here at Circuit Ricardo Tormo in the past. There aren't many drivers actually in the field in Euro NASCAR 2 that have had a pole position here. I think the only driver that's had a pole at Ricardo Tormo that's in this Elite 2 entry list is Tobias Nauenhauer, and that was last year. Other than that, the likes of Vittorio Gorelli and Ulisse Del Snow and Tomo Ferrando have all had pole positions in Euro NASCAR 2, but of course they've all moved up to the Euro NASCAR Pro category nowadays. So, looks neat and tidy, I've got to say, from Martin Dubeck, who before the red flags was already second quickest. 45.698 is his best of the, the best of the session so far. As he heads over the start-finish line now, Tobias Nauenhauer ahead of him goes through the top of the times. Martin Dubeck takes it away from him. So 1 minute 42.809 from Martin Dubeck, 1 minute 42.904 from Tobias Nauenhauer. Justin Kuntz moves up to 3rd quickest. Didier Beck is 4th. In fact, Levi Linter Cantu moves up to 4th quickest. Didier Beck drops down to 5th, shuffling all the way through the order. Vladimir Joitsis to the top of the times. We're looking at Michael Bleekemolen, the oldest driver in the field. Locke snatches the brakes there as he turns in towards what is the the right-hander. That would have been turn number 11 that he just snatched the brake there. Shouldn't damage the tyres too much in the number 69 car, but pushing hard. The difficulty is it's a big and it's a heavy car, so these cars are 1,225 kilos. That equates to just over 2,700 pounds, so it's a big heavy car. They're all powered by a big lump as well, a 5.7 litre V8 engine, so that's 350 cubic inches, isn't it? And that produces around about 400 horsepower, and that's all driven through not just a 4-speed manual gearbox, but the option for this year is that you can run a sequential gearbox. Now, when I say a sequential gearbox, it's not a true electronic sequential gearbox, it's still a manual gearbox, but you can have sequential selection to it. So it's still very much a mechanical gearbox, but with that option to have a sequential. Now, testing's being done. They actually think that the 4-speed box, if you can get used to it without the sequential option, is still the route to go, and most of the drivers, I think, are still running full 4-speed manual. We're looking at Ian Eric Varden there, the number 40 car. Flick back towards Vladimir Joitsis, who was quickest overall in free practice yesterday. Are we going to see the Cypriot head towards pole position? At the moment, it's the Czech driver Martin Dubeck that is quickest. Joitsis might just pick up a little bit of a toe from Yevgen Sokolovsky as he comes over the start-finish line, but he is quicker, 1 minute 42.360, but that is 21 thousandths of a second slower for Vladimir Joitsis than Martin Dubeck, so misses out on pole position by an absolute whisker at this stage. Tobias Nauenhauer is 3rd at the moment, and Advait Diodas 4th at the wheel of his Cal Racing machine. The 31-year-old Indian who was the club champion back in 2018, finished 4th in the Euro NASCAR 2 standings in 2019, but he was another one of many drivers that took a sabbatical last year because of the COVID pandemic. Now, Joitsis is likely to get held up a little bit by Yevgen Sokolovsky, who isn't going to let him go through, because Yevgen is trying to push on to go for his ultimate lap in his qualifying session. So it's up to Joitsis to try and open the door, which he might try and do on the way in towards Bernard Martinez. The door is open, but Yevgen Sokolovsky wants to press on, and rightly so with his own lap. So eventually, yeah, Vladimir Choices thinks, right, okay, I'm going to have to back out of this one, get a bit of a gap, and then I can accelerate into it and see if I can find that 21 thousandth of a second. 23-year-old Cypriot out of the throttle. Is he going to dive for the pit lane, or is he just looking for track position? I think he might just be looking for track position, potentially. We'll have to wait and see. Nothing else has changed, particularly at the sharp end yet. Justin Kuntz, as you can see, the number 22 car for DF1 Racing, the German, is 5th quickest. Pierluigi Veronese 6th on his return to the series, so well done to Pierluigi Veronese. And Max Lancer is 7th at this stage. Yevgen Sokolovsky 8th. Tom Krasinas 9th, albeit Francesco Caristo has just carved his way up through the order there. Moves up to 6th quickest, the number 42 car, so good lap having been popped in by the 18-year-old Italian. There's the number 27 car. That is the double V racing car of Pierluigi Veronese. There goes Alberto Panebianco, the 24-year-old Italian. Took him the Euro NASCAR 2 races here at Valencia last year. In the pit lane is Martin Dubeck, so the man who is on provisional pole doing what I thought would happen, saving the tyres now. So 16 minutes to go, still over half of the session to go. We're starting to now see some of the drivers that have popped quick times in, parking the car up, saving the tyres, and if needs be, you can always come back out and have another roll of the dice. But Martin Dubeck happy at the moment that a 1 minute 42.339 might be good enough for pole position. Well, that is quicker than any of the free practice times from yesterday, because it was 1 minute 42.372, 4/100ths of a second slower. Yesterday was the quickest lap. Up towards the conclusion of the lap. This is Tobias Dauenhauer over the start-finish line. Can he go any quicker? He's 3rd quickest at the moment. Tobias Dauenhauer with a 1 minute 42.509. And I think this is building towards the quick lap for him now. So nice and neat and tidy through Aspar, up towards the left-hand hairpin, taken in 2nd gear. That's Doohan. The car starts to flick towards turn number 3, which is much quicker, so you take that in 3rd gear, back onto the brakes, down to 2nd gear for Nico Triol, which is turn number 4, short straight, almost keep turning all of the time, still in 2nd gear through turn number 5, and now you shift up to 3rd on the exit of this corner, start to come uphill towards Andy El Nieto, which is taken in 2nd gear, turn number 6. There is the rather sorry sight, I've got to say, of Alina Leubniger's car. That's why we thought it looked fine, because all we were seeing on the cameras earlier was the right-hand side of the car. The left-hand side looks very battered, to say the least. Back towards Tobias Dauenhauer, and what he's doing, almost ran a little bit wide there, coming out of Bernard Martinez, but through the kinks at turns number 9 and 10, and up towards turn number 11, another 2nd gear corner. Speed start to build again now. You can see the car twitch sideways on acceleration as he heads up towards Championeros, taken in 3rd gear. Over the blind crest, as Fred Gabion was talking to us about, as you then flick your way through turn number 13 and up towards turn number 14. The final corner here, the sector times from Tobias Dauenhauer, I don't think are going to give him a great deal, if any, of improvement, to be perfectly honest, and he reports the lap, so yeah, not surprising. 1st sector, not too bad. 2nd sector, all right. 3rd sector, all right. So yeah, I think just deciding that wasn't quite going to hook it together, so maybe just bring the car back in again and have another go, because there's plenty of time, you know, sit in the pit lane for 5 or 8 minutes and then come back out for the final few perhaps, because there's still 13 minutes remaining. Vladimir Choices is back out for another go. 2nd quickest currently. 1 minute 42.360 is his best. And as he comes over the start-finish line now, that is a 1 minute 43.561, so no improvement there for Choices. Still only needs to find 22 thousandths of a second. If he finds 21 thousandths of a second advantage, he will match the lap time of Martin Dubeck, but on the basis of Martin Dubeck posted the time earlier on in the session, Dubeck would still take pole, so Choices has to find 22 thousandths of a second to take pole away from Martin Dubeck, or more, of course. Just to pick up on other cars that we've got in the session, the leading legend trophy driver we've got for those aged over 40 is Fabrizio Ametta, who is in 7th position. And the leading rookie that we've got is down in 14th position at the moment. Alberto Panebianco is the leading rookie that we have in the field. The leading lady in the lady trophy we'll have will be Ariana Casoli, because of the unfortunate problems that befell Alina Leubniger. So Choice is pressing on. First sector, a couple of tenths adrift. Second sector has matched Martin Dubeck for pace. Third sector, he's just coming through now, comes out of turn number 11 down the straight, breaks the third sector, and that's not bad through the third sector. I think it's going to be a 1 minute 42.3, 1 minute 42.4, but I still don't quite think he's going to make it to wrestle pole position away. We'll have to wait and see. Certainly he lost probably 2 tenths in the first sector, made one of those tenths back up. Really depends how sector 4 has gone. It looked neat and tidy through sector 4. Can Choices find the 21 thousandths of a second he wants? Over the start finish line he will go, and it is a 1 minute 42.8, so it was ultimately half a second slower than the Cypriot driver's previous best. So still at the moment remains second quickest in this qualification session for Euro NASCAR Pro here at Circuit Ricardo Tormo, opening round of the 2021 NASCAR Whelen Euro Series season. So Dubeck from Choices, Tobias Dauenhauer from Pierluigi Veronesi, Advait Diodor is 5th, Justin Koontz is 6th, Fabrizio Amata is 7th, and the leading legend car we have on the grid currently. Francesco Garizzo is 8th, Simon Palat is 9th, and Michael Bleaky-Molam is running in 10th position. Fantastic stuff from the hugely experienced 71-year-old. So not just Formula 1 that he's raced in, but Formula 2 back in period, Formula 3, FIA GTs, Porsche Carrera Cup, chunk of ADAC racing, NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, Renault Clios, you name it. There's not a lot over the years that Michael Bleaky-Molam hasn't driven. So now Choices is pressing on another lap. Right now, this lap, only a tenth down on Martin Dubeck in the first sector, a few thousandths of a second quicker in the second sector, about 3 tenths of a second quicker in the third sector. This could be the lap here for Vladimiras Choices. We'll have to wait and see as to whether it is going to be good enough. Still think he might fall a couple of tenths shy potentially, so maybe a 1:42.5 maybe this time. We'll have to wait and see as we look at Tobias Dauenhauer, who is still plugging around in 3rd quickest in this session at the moment. This is not a quick start to the lap though for Tobias Dauenhauer, because he's about 20 seconds slower through the first sector alone. Choices, I said I thought it might be a 1:42.5. It was a 1:42.6 in the end. So yeah, again, just a little bit slower. So cannot find any more pace at the moment. He's pushing it as hard as he can, the Academy Motorsport Alex Caffey Ford, but just can't manage to find those agonising few thousandths. So here's Tobias Dauenhauer on what looks like being an out lap. Just to give you an idea as to how slow this lap is from Tobias Dauenhauer. About 23 seconds through the first sector is about right. He was 46. About 26, 27 seconds through the second sector, he was about 30. So he's building the pace on this lap, which suggests he's heading on to a flying lap. The third sector should take you about 24 seconds through the third sector. The circuit is broken into 4 separate sectors here at Circuit Ricardo Tormo. Well, he was 32 seconds through that third sector. So needs to start to pick up the pace now if he wants to head onto the flying lap, and that's exactly what he's doing now. You can see all of a sudden the body language of the car has changed. Tobias Dauenhauer is in the zone and is heading on to a flying lap to see if he can haul himself onto the front row of the grid. Now, the best lap he's done is a 1:42.9. The lap he aspires to do is a 1:42.3, and a low one at that, as we see the forlorn sight of Paolo Valeri's car being winched away. So I think Tobias Dauenhauer is probably the one to watch on this lap. We're looking at Ian-Eric Varden, the 56-year-old Finn, who is... Where is he at the moment, Ian-Eric Varden? He is 15th quickest. Fabrizio Amata at the wheel of the black and gold number 55 car on a quick lap. Ian-Eric Varden is bottled up slightly, I would say, behind Eric Countal at this stage. Eric is 56, comes from France, so he's a driver that's been around NASCAR Euro Series racing for a very, very good number of years. Moves out of the way, allows Ian Eric to squeeze his way through. So the legend champion from 2019, the Finnish driver, can now press on with the remainder of the lap. Now, on this lap, I think Ian Eric Varden's lap times, yeah, good through sector 1, not that great through sector 2, I'm afraid to say. Sector 3 not bad either for Ian Eric Varden, so could be a place gain. Tobias Downhour concludes his flying lap. Over the start-finish line comes Didier Beck to start his. Where is Didier Beck? 16th now is Didier. Best lap time that the number 10 car has done is a 1 minute 45.428. I think he's just completed his outlap as Didier Beck, having been in the pit lane for about 3 or 4 minutes. And we'll look to see whether he can clamber his way a little bit further up through the order. You can see the black line he left there as he was accelerating his way out of turn 5 and up towards Aniel Nieto, which is where he's going now. Back to Levi Linton-Cantu briefly. Now, Didier Beck looked fairly neat and tidy so far on this lap. The sector times for Beck about 1.5 seconds slower through the first sector. He's about 1 second slower through the second sector. This is the quick guys and girls, but it's not bad actually compared to the sector times that he's previously done. Didier Beck could move up from 16th position here, 16th position overall, and the 6th of the Legend Trophy competitors for those aged 40 and over that race in Euro NASCAR 2. Ian Eric Varden is ahead of him on the grid at this stage, and Ian Eric is also one of those drivers in the Legend Trophy, and ahead of Ian Eric is another Legend Trophy driver, which is Max Lancer. So sort of 4th, 5th and 6th in the Legend category have all got themselves together in this qualifying session in 14th, 15th and 16th overall. Beck about to head over the start-finish line. That lap was a 1 minute 46.39, which is slower than the 1 minute 45.4 he's done in the past. So no improvement there for Didier Beck, I'm afraid to say. We have had a couple of improvements though. Francesco Garisto has moved up into 6th position now, the wheel of the number 42 car. Last time through he posted a 1 minute 43.95, so that was a good improvement for Garisto. Still only 18 years of age is Francesco Garisto. Finished 9th in the Euro NASCAR 2 standings last year. Seen him race some single-seaters before in the likes of Formula 4 in Italy. Also did some Lotus Cup racing in Italy in the past as well, did Francesco Garisto. And is pushing hard in this one. He's 1.6 seconds off the pole time, but he only needs to find 4 1,000ths of a second to gain a place on the grid, because his best lap time 1 minute 43.950. Advait Yoda, who's ahead of him, 1 minute 43.947. So 3 1,000ths of a second would match it. 4 1,000ths of a second would move him up a place on the grid, and he's already just moved from what, 7th up to 6th. Sector times looking reasonably good as well, I've got to say. Very good through the first sector is Francesco Garisto. Leaves a little bit on the table through sector 2. He's about to conclude sector 3 now as he heads up towards Champieros. And sector 3 is quick as well from Francesco Garisto. This could be another place gain, I think, here, having just gained 1 place on the previous lap. Let's have a quick look for Garisto. Up towards Adrian Campos. 3.5 minutes of the session still remaining. Needs to find just 4 1,000ths of a second to get past Dioda. If he can find 23 thousandths of a second, he'd gain 2 places. Garisto heads over the start-finish line. Let's just have a quick look when the time pops up, and it has, yeah, moved him up to 4th. Yeah, so he did gain 2 places. He got himself ahead of Advait Dioda and ahead of Pierluigi Veronesi, because the new lap time that he popped in was a 1 minute 43.813 for Francesco Garisto. So great driving from the young man there. So it wasn't that long ago that he was running in 7th position, and he's now up into 4th place, Garisto. So it's Martin Dubeck, Vladimir Choitzis, Tobias Downhour, Francesco Garisto, Pierluigi Veronesi, then Advait Dioda ahead of Justin Kutz, Fabrizio Amata, Simon Palat and Alberto Panabianco. Those are the top 10 drivers that we have currently. And the Legend car is in 8th position, Fabrizio Amata. The leading rookie is in 10th position, Alberto Panebianco. And the leading driver that we have in the Lady Trophy is down in 18th position, which is Ariana Casoli. Very sideways moment there for Didier Beck, who just about gathered up the number 10 RDV competition Chevy as it started to break away from him. Now Garisto is still pressing on. We've just seen him go past Didier Beck, but Garisto is not on a quick lap this time through, so I don't think we're going to see an improvement there. I thought Advite Diodo might be on a quick lap looking to try and improve upon 6th, but he was quick through the first sector but was slower through the second, so I think he's aborted the lap. Didier Beck, is he heading in towards the pit lane? I would have thought so. Yes, he is. Also trundling its way down the pit lane ahead of him was the number 22 car of... Oh no, that would have been the number 23 car of Livy Lintacantu. So, a minute to go. Yevgen Sokolovsky still looking to try and improve. Where is Yevgen currently? Well, on circuit, he's just coming out of turn number 1. On the provisional grid, he's 12th quickest currently. So, that's the order that he's trying to work his way up through. So, yeah, 12th quickest for Yevgen Sokolovsky. 3rd quickest of the Legend Trophy drivers. As I say, Legend Trophy, mentioned it a few times, that's for drivers aged 40 and over that compete in the Euro NASCAR 2 division. And for Yevgen Sokolovsky, he was runner-up in that category last year, finished 13th overall in the standings, but was the runner-up in the Legend Trophy, was Yevgen. Simon Palat has just moved up to 8th position at the wheel of the number 66 car. Yevgen Sokolovsky's sector times, not too bad for this stage of the qualification session, which now has less than 30 seconds to go. Not too bad in terms of drop-off. A bit of drop-off through the first sector. Not too bad through the second, but I don't think that Yevgen is going to improve upon the 1 minute 44.563 that he set earlier on in this session, I'm afraid, and it will be his last qualification lap as well, because we've now got the clock ticking down the last couple of seconds. Clock ticks to 0. Checkered flag goes out at the end of the qualification session for the Euro NASCAR 2 division here at Circuit Ricardo Tormo. So has Yevgen Sokolovsky left anything else in reserve on this final lap? Can he improve from 12th position? No, he cannot. So that was a 1 minute 45.0. His best is a 1 minute 44.5. So no improvement there. There's also no improvement for the number 56 car of Advent Yoda, I don't think, on the final lap. Didier Beck is just about to take the checkered flag very shortly, but I don't think his lap is going to count for a great deal, because the body language of the car would suggest again that he has eased things off in the final stages, and therefore there's only a few more cars to take the checkered flag, including Michael Bleekie-Molen and the number 66 car as well of Simon Palat, who are both out there on quick laps. Now, Simon Palat last time through set his best lap of the session, but he trundles his way into the pit lane and will not take the checkered flag. So looks as though that is going to be it for our Euro NASCAR 2 division qualification. So with the checkered flag having been shown to the vast majority of the cars, just the odd one or two still to take it, including Max Lancer, who finished just outside of the top 10 in the end, Max Lancer, but he's the second of the Legend Trophy competitors that we've got in the field, so that will be his main focus, really. He will be reasonably pleased with that, I would have thought. So, with the cars heading back down there in towards the pit lane, I think they've all now taken the checkered flag. What we can do is just guide you through. You can see on the left of your screens the way that the grid is going to line up, subject to official confirmation, of course. So Martin Dubeck was fastest of all by just 21 thousandths of a second from Vladimiris Choitsis, who was second quickest. Third was the number 50 car, which was Tobias Downhauer, and fourth was Francesco Garisto. Pierluigi Veronesi and Advite Dioda are 5th and 6th. Justin Kuntz was there in 7th place, with Simon Palat in 8th position. Fabrizio Amata, returning to the championship, finished in 9th place, and Alberto Panebianco was in 10th place, with Amata and Panebianco being the leading legend and the leading rookie that we will have on the grid later on today. On the 6th row of the grid, 11th was Max Lancer, 12th was Yevgen Sokolovsky, and 13th position was Michael Bleeky-Molen. Tom Krasinas finished in 14th in the end. Ian-Eric Varden was in 15th place, and Didier Beck was in 16th position. Levi Lintekantu was 17th, ahead of Ariana Casserly, who was the leading lady on the grid for the Lady Trophy, in 18th position. Miguel Gomez was in 19th position, and Eric Cantal was there in 20th position. 21st and 22nd on the grid. Not many laps having been done by Paolo Vieri before problems happened at turn number 1 and his car ended up with damage, so he will start the number 8 car 21st on the grid. Nave Talor 22nd on the grid, failed to start in that one at the wheel of the number 90 car, so didn't do a single lap. Not sure what the problem was for Nave Talor. And then there should be one other car that we haven't mentioned that, and that is Alina Leubniger. So I think that is the grid done and dusted. Hopefully Andre might be down there in the pit lane ready to have a chat to our pole sitter.
We're here with the NASCAR 2 Pole Award winner, Martin Dubek from the Czech Republic. Man, since you won the race last year at Zolder, you're on fire. What's the magic behind that?
Oh, so nothing changed. I have a really good teammate, so we find a really good setup for this track, and I'm so happy. So first qualifying and first pole position, so I'm really happy.
It's quite warm here in Spain. You were in the car. Is that physically demanding to be in those cars?
So this is a really nice track, but I think it's hard track, one of the hard track. But really, we did a really good setup, and I did only 3 laps in qualifying, and I saved the tires for the race. So I think now it's really in good condition. So it will be good.
All right, thank you very much. Your pole sitter, Martin Dubek.
Thank you.
There we go, great to hear from
Perfect.
Martin
Thank you so
Dubek,
much.
his first pole position at the NASCAR Grand Prix of Spain, Circuit Ricardo Tormo. And that is it for the moment. Thanks for joining us. Apologies with a few little technical issues that we are having, but we will resolve any further issues and be back with, of course, more action later on today. We are scheduled to go live at 13:45 Central European time on the build-up to our first race of the weekend for the Euro NASCAR Pro Division. And if you can't join us for that one, then you could always join us for the Euro NASCAR 2 race that takes place. We go live again with the stream at 16:45 Central European time. That's a slightly more palatable if you're watching in the US, 10:45 AM Eastern time. So from myself, Mark Werrell, and the whole team at Circuit Ricardo Tormo, thanks for joining us for qualifying. We'll see you again later on today. Until then, goodbye.